Shabbat Shalom.
It is a pleasure to be here with you all. We're really looking forward to sharing some Torah with you and making some art together this weekend as well.
One of the things we do is we believe that when you look at the world through Jewish eyes, you can find Torah everywhere, including comic books and pop culture.
Now, as an artist, I cut up comic books and I use them as a way to explore Jewish text. This is a piece I made about Joseph and his coat of many colors. Here, his coat is made out of superhero costumes. It's a way to explore the idea that the costume that you wear, the clothing that you wear, says a lot about the person you want to be perceived as.
Right, and this week's Torah portion, Pekudei, is the first time that all of the priestly garments or the priestly vestments are put together.
So there are many occasions in which you meet the people who make these costumes. So whether it's in Kingsman, where they go to a tailor shop and they pick out the special suit that our agent is going to wear, or in cases where the tailor is so important they become a character in themselves. So for instance, in The Incredibles or She-Hulk, we meet the people who make these superhero costumes.
And similarly, there's an entire chapter in this week's portion detailing the completed clothing for Aaron the high priest. The rest of this chapter, entirety of chapter 39, is about all of the materials and the colors and how those pieces came together.
Now, there's nothing I enjoy more than when a comic book takes the opportunity to tell you exactly how that suit works. So you can find out how those web shooters work on Spider-Man's costume, or what exactly Batgirl has in that utility belt to help her fight crime.
So a lot of people have done the same thing, imagining with the priestly vestments, giving it the comic book treatment, wondering what all those pieces together looked like and what they looked like when you put them together.
Now, you may know that characters like Captain America and Hawkeye will sometimes have an emblem on their forehead, and that's so the people who they're meeting with know who they are and what they stand for.
So similarly, the high priest had a headdress that had the words Kadosh Ladonai, holy to God, written across the front of it. Like those superheroes that can't necessarily see what's on their forehead unless they look in the mirror, right? It's a reminder for everyone else of who they are and what their mission is. And it's the same for the high priest. If you were to see him in this outfit, and it's always a him, you would see his mission. And remember that we're also told as the Jewish people, we are holy to God. So we have all of these pieces that come together that create the priestly garments, the priestly vestments. And it's sort of like Batman's utility belt in that each piece has its own purpose. And the rabbis imagined what purpose each of these pieces were for. Well, the general purpose they assumed was for atonement, right? If you think about Yom Kippur, this is the day the high priest enters the Holy of Holies. So each part of the garment, each piece that makes up the vestments, is connected to a sin it is attempting to atone for. And some of the connections are really obvious. Some are a little bit more challenging to see. So for example, did I skip ahead? No, I didn't, sorry. For example, the robe has bells on it. So bells make a sound, they make a noise. They atone for malicious speech. So the terrible sounds, like the noise you make in making malicious speech, that is atoned for by the sounds of the bells. Now, it's not just each garment that has meaning, but each color has meaning as well.
So you may not know this, but there's a code to the superhero and supervillain costumes. Heroes tend to wear primary colors, blue, red, and yellow. The villains tend to wear secondary colors, orange, purple, and green. And that is so that we, reading the comic books, can know who they are. But it's also so that when they have this particular costume, they stand out, and you know who they are and what they stand for.
Right, so the priestly vestments are also very colorful. The Torah tells us that the four colors are gold, blue, purple, and crimson, or red. Sorry. It's on silent.
It's not on silent.
I thought it was on silent. Right, so the four colors. The rabbis had some different ideas about what those four colors mean when you bring them together. One suggestion is that they represent what the rabbis thought of as the elements. So that would be earth and blood, air and fire. And another group of rabbis thought they represented the pieces that come together to create the world, the white being plants, red for animals, purple for humans, and blue for God. But that you bring all of these colors together, and they happen to be the exact same colors that the Mishkan, that the Holy of Holies is made out of. So that when the high priest enters the Holy of Holies, he blends into the background. This could be why the high priest needed bells on his robe. But what it means is that when the high priest enters the Holy of Holies wearing threads that are the exact same colors and the same material that makes up the curtain, the only thing that you would see is the breastplate. That's the piece that stands out the most.
Now, superheroes have strong iconography. They often have a symbol that they wear. Maybe it's on their head, maybe it's on their chest, maybe it's on a shield, and it always means something. We know that Superman's S is a Kryptonian word for hope. All of these things remind them either of people or of their mission or what they're supposed to be doing.
Right, this is your interpretation of the breastplate, and it does look very similar to your Torah cover that you have here. As the cantor mentioned, the breastplate has the names of all of the tribes engraved. And it's not just the breastplate that has the names. Also, the pieces that connect to the shoulder harness also have names written on it. This is to remind the high priest of what his job is, because he is carrying the sins of all of the Israelite people on his shoulders, that his job is to make atonement for everyone. And so this helps him remember his connection to the people and keeps them close to his heart. Underneath that breastplate, he gets to carry what are called the Urim and Thummim. These were divining tools that the high priest would use to get answers from God to some of the big questions that he might have had.
It sounds a little like a Ouija board.
Well, it sort of is. That is certainly how Rambam understood it, to be very, he didn't say Ouija board, but he describes it the way we would describe a Ouija board, in that parts of the names or letters would light up to help answer those questions. And then the rabbis ask the question, well, why does Aaron merit wearing this breastplate, holding the Jewish people close to him, and this very special tool for talking to God? And the rabbis say it is because he was happy for his brother. That Aaron is going to be the high priest, but his brother Moses, look, we talk a lot more about Moses than we talk about Aaron, right? He knows his brother is the leader of the Jewish people, and yet his heart is glad for his brother. He is truly happy for his brother Moses, his younger brother Moses, even more extraordinary, to be the leader of the Jewish people. And even more than that, Midrash goes on to say that Moses was just as happy for Aaron to be the priest, for Aaron's sons to have the lineage that we continue to talk about today, and that even though Moses' own children were not going to carry leadership roles, that he had that same sort of joy for his brother and for his brother's children. And that joy is called firgun.
So we're going to teach you a modern Hebrew word tonight, if you'll repeat after me. Firgun? Perfect.
So I'm so happy you all got it, because that is what firgun is. Firgun is an unselfish delight in another person's joy. It is pure happiness about someone else being happy in a completely unselfish, altruistic way. It is a wonderful feeling to have, to celebrate someone else's joy as if it's your own. Fourth graders, your parents are probably having that feeling this evening, watching you celebrate leading the service. Ultimately, wearing the outfit, wearing the priestly vestments, is supposed to match the internal purity. God tells Moses to make holy clothing for his brother Aaron for dignity and for adornment, which in Hebrew is lakavod ultifaret. And the rabbis understood kavod as another word for soul. So what this portion is really saying And what it's saying that we can all do is that we can clothe our inner souls in majesty and splendor. Because it is not really about the clothing, it's about the soul and who we are. The Malbim taught that Moses wasn't making the priests clothes, but that he was teaching them the values that would sustain them and sustain the Jewish community. And this is how we understand the portion today. It teaches us the importance of refining our own souls to reflect the thoughts and traits and values that keep us away from wrongdoing and push us closer to holiness. While this portion details these completed holy priestly garments, the message is that it's not as much about the garments, but it's about who we are inside that really matters. So on this Shabbat, may our Judaism infuse everything we do, from our Shabbat clothes to our actions and how we spend our time, so that we are always wearing our values on our sleeves. May you, and on this Shabbat, may you experience firgun, that genuine happiness at someone else's happiness, and not just this Shabbat, but next Shabbat and all Shabbats, and on all the days in between.
Shabbat shalom.